All right, let's talk about something you see everywhere, from nasty online comments to that boss who's maybe a little too big for their britches. It's this powerful, timeless idea that we can call the arrogance of the safe. So let's really dig into this quote. It's making a super important point, right? It's drawing a clear line in the sand. On one side, you've got real courage, the kind that actually takes guts and involves real risk. And on the other, well, that's just bravado. It's the kind of courage you have when you know for a fact that nothing can touch you. It's a huge difference when you stop and think about it.
I mean, you've seen this, right? You ever just scroll through the comments and wonder, why are people so brave behind a keyboard? They'll say things they would never dream of saying to someone's face. So what is it? What's the switch that flips inside someone's head and turns a totally normal person into a full-on internet troll?
What's really wild is that the answer isn't buried in some complex modern psychology textbook. Nope, it's actually in a fable that's about 2,500 years old. Yeah, to really get what's going on with the modern keyboard warrior, we need to take a trip back in time and talk about a little goat and a wolf.
Okay, so the story kicks off pretty simply. Picture this. There's a young goat, a kid, and he's standing up on the roof of a house. He's totally safe up there, high above everything, completely out of harm's way.
And then, who should happen to pass by on the ground below? A wolf. So right away, you can feel that tension, that power dynamic. If they were on the same level face to face, that kiddo would be absolutely terrified. But they're not. There's this physical separation. The kid's up high, the wolf's down low.
And this is where things get really interesting. The kid, feeling all snug and secure up on his perch, gets a little cocky. He starts taunting the wolf, shouting insults, making faces, basically saying all the things he wouldn't even dare to think if he were down there on the ground. It's his safety that's making him so bold.
So the wolf just stops, looks up at this noisy little goat, and says something absolutely brilliant. He's not mad, not even a little bit. He just calmly says, "Oh, I hear you all right, but it's the roof that's talking, not you." Wow. He just completely cuts through the noise and sees exactly where that bravery is coming from. It's not the kid, it's his position.
And that right there, that's the whole point of the story. The kid makes a classic mistake. He thinks his location is his character. He's thinking, man, I'm so brave. But the wolf, he's wise. He sees the real deal. The courage isn't internal, it's external. It's coming from the roof. The wolf knows how to separate the person from their position of safety. Okay, so this all brings us to a really solid definition. The arrogance of the safe. It's that hollow, fake kind of bravery. It's what happens when someone hides behind a shield, like a literal roof or internet anonymity or their job title, and uses it to act with a meanness they'd never show if they were vulnerable and out in the open. All right, now this is the fun part. Because once you get this whole kid and wolf dynamic, you're going to start seeing these roofs absolutely everywhere. Seriously, they're all over the place in our modern lives. Let's break down a few. So let's think about three big ones. First up, the most obvious one, the internet. That cloak of anonymity, that's the ultimate roof. Then you've got wealth. Having a ton of money can act like a roof, making people feel like they're totally untouchable. And of course, there's authority. A job title, like being a manager. That can become a roof that lets someone act terribly without facing any real consequences from the people below them. But here's the real trap of hanging out on the roof for too long. It starts to warp your character. You start to think that your temporary high ground means you're just better. You forget that the roof can vanish in an instant. And maybe the worst part, you start to believe your safety gives you a free pass to be disrespectful, to be mean, maybe even to use your power to get back at people. So this brings us to the big question, right? How do we make sure we don't become that kid on the roof? How do we build the kind of character that's solid, that doesn't change whether we're on top of the world or on the bottom? It's all about building character on level ground. So how do we actually do that? How do we stay grounded? Well, it can be as simple as a few reminders we tell ourselves. Things like, I will not let my position speak for me. Or remembering that having an advantage isn't a license to belittle others. True strength, real courage, is about choosing to be kind, especially when you're in a position where you don't have to be. And I just want to leave you with this one last question to chew on. Think about it. When you strip away all the ruse, the job title, the money, the online anonymity, who is left? The person standing there on level ground. Well, that's your true character. So what does that person look like?